All right, welcome back everybody to the Made New Project. Tonight we've got a great guest, one of my best friends, Mr. Grant Hammock. Grant and I just completed the Staff Sergeant Alex White Memorial Ultra in its inaugural year. We will run all the way through that thing quite literally here tonight. But first of all, Grant Hammock is a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army, currently serving. He has 12 years under his belt so far. He is a friend of mine from Virginia. We spent time in Europe together. Grant is also a combat veteran, having deployed to Iraq in his career and multiple other duty stations. Grant is a father and a husband to his wife, Elizabeth, and his kids, Everly and Ridge. Like I said, he's one of my great friends, and I'm blessed to have you here, brother.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Grant, we have been through a ton together, and this should just flow pretty easy. But coming into what the race was and talking about, we kind of were like, oh, this will be cool, and some things might happen, and da da da. And then the stars aligned, as you put it. And so let's put like through your journey of how you currently live in Kansas, but you're stationed at Fort Knox right now. And
Yep.
so hearing about the 47-mile ultra, how did you get there? Like from hearing about it to what we did last weekend, just run through that scenario.
I don't know if I have a very well thought out idea of how I got here, but I can say so. We had started talking about it. Yeah, I'm at Riley right now here for Knox at recruiting school, and you kind of pitched the idea, put it on Facebook, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Wonder if it'll line up. Things started to, like you said, like you put it into perspective there. Like I mentioned, the stars started aligning. I come to school. My running journey began. Let me preface this. I started last year running on my own. Um, did not enjoy it at all. I hated running with a passion. I'll be the first to tell you that was if I wasn't doing it for PT, I wasn't doing it at all. And I would always try to get out of running. That was just something that never interested me at all. Slowly picked up on it. Went and actually got some, good running shoes, got some good gear to support me. But I struggled with staying dedicated to it and keeping myself accountable, which is something that unfortunately it took 47 miles for me to figure out. Hey, I can't just go out here and do it without some pain endured. But that's one big thing that I'm working on now is holding myself accountable. But yeah, back to the story. So saw it on Facebook, thought it was an awesome opportunity. Saw how much the community was like. People were coming in like, "Hey, I'd love to support. I'd love to run. I'd love to do this. Love to do that." And in my mind, I was like, "Is this something I can complete?" And it wasn't about could I finish it. It was how much pain and suffering am I going to go through with the lack of training, with the lack of a proper like train up for something like this. Um, but the reason behind it, with Alex and everything, like it being a run for him, I just told myself, like, I have this mental thing where I can't quit. I'm going to push myself to the absolute max. And, if that, I told you from the get go, if it takes me walking the entire thing, that's what's going to happen. So, yeah, I got there, got after it, and was feeling good for the first 20 miles or so. And then started getting
Let me
some.
just time out you right there real quick. I want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
give
yeah.
some people some backstory here. So
Okay.
one thing is when I put it on Facebook initially, it had no background connected to Alex at all yet.
Yeah.
And so I told this story on another podcast and recently, but it was a couple of weeks after that. Alex's mom reached out to me, and Alex White is my friend that most of you guys know, passed away a little bit over 4 years ago. And what really connects Grant to this as well is Grant was also stationed with Alex and not with me at the same time. So me and Grant were stationed together for a long time, from 2016 to 2019, really. And then we've been friends ever since. And then me and Alex White were stationed together in Korea all of 2020. And then he lived with me in 2021, which is when he was working with Grant. So Alex was our mutual friend and really one of our best friends in our respect to Alex. And then Grant and I were also best friends. So we had like this trifecta of being really close, which we didn't even figure out until I would almost say too late. We never really got to
Yeah.
spend time together as a trio. We went to that one cornhole tournament together. Um, but anyway, so then Alex's mother is the one that told me that the run that I planned was starting on his birthday, and I didn't even know this. And then we found out that the route that I had made up ran past his crash site. So when we talk about the stars aligning even for Grant to get there, it goes all the way back to what this run ended up being for. And the runners out there, at one point, Brandy literally saying, like, it's just me and Alex. It's just me and Alex. And like everybody else backing up me and Grant's friend. And Grant didn't know anybody at the run besides me. And I didn't know anybody really personally at the run besides Grant and Taylor out of 11 people. So that's just, I wanted to give some backstory. Alex was an incredible soldier, an incredible friend, a combat veteran, and somebody we hold near and dear, somebody we wear on our wrists, as a lot of military veterans do. His name is something that we try to live up to. And I say try because he wasn't just a large man by his stature, but in character and in presence and in values. So I said I just wanted to set that the tone that a lot of people, maybe this was just the Clarksville Perimeter Ultra, 47 miles we run around Clarksville. Grant was already in, like trying to do it anyways, and then it gained momentum that I believe given to us, by God, to give it purpose. And that is what Grant is going to speak through, and what he was starting to, he cannot quit because of the reasoning behind this is more than just running 47 miles. So just wanted to set the scene there. I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered it pretty good, man. It's definitely one of those things that, seeing it on Facebook, like, and I was able to be there. I was going to be there no matter what. And then, like you put it, it kind of gained a little bit more traction than I think you originally thought it would. And we still talked about it even up to the day of the run. Like, I wonder who's coming. Like, it could be 30 people, it could be 5 people. We don't know, just because so many people had showed interest in it. But yeah, man, like the train up, I for me was very poor. And again, that's something that I'm just gonna have to continuously work on, and not just try to go out there and full send an ultra, especially for the first time. But yeah, man, getting there, being able to catch up with you was awesome. We've had a little gap where I've been gone for 2.5 years or so now, probably since the last time I've seen you, somewhere around there. Um, so just being able to be there and having that next step like line up for me was just awesome. Getting out of work that day, like all the little small things, was working. Like I got out of class early, and was able to get on the road a little bit earlier. Was able to grab dinner with Alex's mom, and a couple of his aunts. All everything was just falling into place. But yeah, once we got there, got everything situated, I was already asking myself, and it's something that I had to fight throughout the whole time. But I was like, what am I doing? Why did I put myself in this situation? And that's something that, again, I questioned the entire night, from 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. for the entire duration of the thing. But I will say one thing that keeps me going, and it's every day through PT, through just my life, who I am. I don't like to quit. I will push until I absolutely can't push anymore. But I think it had a little bit more to do with it. Once we deemed it, it was Alex's birthday. This run is for him. This is something that we want, to grow. This is something that I hope to be there for every year. Something that just continues to grow and continues to honor him. So that was one big thing. And I've got a quick story. And this is something that plays through my head all the time when I feel like I want to quit. I was at air assault school with him back in 2019, I believe it was, at Campbell. And I told you this as well, that weekend, and his mom loves this story. But we were doing the ruck march. Last thing you got to do, 12 miles, good to go. You earn your air assault badge, good to go. We're out there rucking, and we were like 30 minutes ahead of pace. So I was like, hey man, let's just, we only have like 2 miles left, maybe a mile left. I was like, let's just walk it in, and save our legs. We've already put them through, hell and back. So, and he looked at me and he was like, no. He was like, we're gonna run. We've ran, the first 10, 11 miles. He was like, you're not gonna quit now. And he pushed and pushed and pushed, and literally I started running, cramping up, terrible cramps. Like I'm like, dude, screw this, man. Like I'm gonna quit. And he's right there pushing me, pushing, pushing, pushing. And he did that all the way until the end. He took off, got towards the end, came back and got me, and was like, dude, let's go. We're finishing this together. And so that's one thing about him that made it so special for me was I know that if he was there, and I know looking down on us, that he was talking the most crap when I was sitting there walking and when I was going through all this pain and everything. And he's like, dude, get your life together. Let's go. One foot in front of the other. That's all it is. Like it's 47 miles, it's not even that bad. And I could just hear him talking in my ear the entire time. And I think that's kind of what really kept me going, alongside yourself and some of the awesome people that I got to meet out there. That was just I've always heard stories, and I talked to the others that ran with us and told them this. Like I've always heard stories of the ultra community, having this tight knit group and always being supportive and everything. And I always wondered what that was like because I had never, really came into that realm of running. Um, and they showed that night, and supporting me the entire way through, making sure I was good, checking on me, giving me meds, telling me different stretches, just I mean everything. Just they really kept me going. And then in those miles, like I said, kind of diving into the actual run, we first started, felt good, had a good pace going, we were all staying together. The vibes were high. Hit mile 20 or so, and that's kind of when I started to lose some contact with y'all, and started to fall out. Like I said, I had some terrible hip pain, that just wouldn't go away. It's kind of going up into the groin. That's everything just started to hit me around mile 20. And I think that's when a lot of the self doubt started coming in as well. That really, that demon that was just eating me alive was like, you can quit now. You can quit. You can quit. You have 26 miles left. You haven't even made it halfway, or 27, but you haven't even made it halfway. Like you can just quit now and you can save yourself the pain. Um, and again, that's when the voice of Alex coming in and just chirping, right? And then on the other side, I have myself saying, hey, you talk about not quitting. You talk about being this man that can push through and endure, so much pain, but yet here you are having thoughts of quitting. You might as well just quit. Um, so that was something that I battled, for a little while. Took some meds at mile 20-ish. Was able to power through up until we got to the crash site, which was around mile like 34-ish, 33, something like that. Um, and then I think at that point, I was like, okay, now we're over halfway. Like I had never ran more than 10 miles at this point at once. Like
Yeah.
my running progression was, 5Ks. I had done some 10Ks here and there. I had ran a 10 miler once just because that day I decided, oh, we're just going to run 10 miles. But other than that, I had never ran further than 10 miles at any given moment, not counting like rucks and stuff, 12 milers doing 18 miles, like actually running and like self supporting with fuel and water and all this and that, and actually like GPS tracking your routes. Like never in my life have I done something like that. Um, and so at that point, I was like, dude, you've already done half marathon, marathon. You're working into ultra land here now. Like you're already at mile 34, and then of course Mother Nature had to, you know, come and support us as well with a couple hours of rain there. Probably one of the hardest rains I've ever like physically been in. And I know you mentioned like probably the hardest rain you've ever ran in, but that was
Yeah.
a little pick me up. It was a little pick me up in that moment. That was I didn't really take that too spiritual or anything like that, but that was just something that like, hey, you've already made it this far. It's raining. You're cooling off. Like you're gonna push yourself. You've already made that decision in your mind. And so that really lifted me up right there, was just getting soaking wet. And I was like, what else can I ask for, right? I've already got all the pain, everything hurts. And now you're going to soak me, and my feet are going to be soaking wet, and everything's going to be soaked for the rest of the time. So it just made it a little bit more chaotic, but I like chaos. And that's kind of where the chaos, keeps pushing. So But yeah, that, like I said, that pushed me out to like mile 34 ish or so. We had a little quick stop right there. I tried to stretch out, get some water, um, and then we got back on the road. And again, I stayed, maybe a couple miles or so down the road, staying with the group. Started to fall back again. That hip pain just wouldn't let up. Um, but like I said, at that point, I'd already made up in my mind. All the demons that were telling me to quit were gone. Now I was just fighting the pain. And that's something like pain is whatever. If I had to walk the last 12 miles, I was gonna do it. That's what I had set out to do. I had set out to finish it. Um, and I really had I had some support, definitely from my wife and friends and everybody. They were like, "Hey, good luck. You can do this. You can push yourself. Like, we know who you are." But I also had some people, and I don't like to use the term haters, but I had people that were telling me like, "Hey, man, you're crazy for this. Like, why would you do that to yourself?" That I had people I found out after I completed it that they were like, "Oh, we were making side bets that you were gonna make it. This guy said 20 miles. This guy said 25 miles. This guy said 15." Um, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't know that at the time. But like I said, it would have just been extra motivation because I was going to do it through and through, as much as I could and push myself to the end. So really, like I said, I was able to fight off those demons and use a lot of that energy that I was getting from everyone around me, and having the support of Alex's family there, and having the support of this ultra marathon team that we had out there. That just this was a little warm up to some people, right? Going out there, and 47 miles is hard per se. But you guys were really the ones that kept me going the most in the times that I needed it. And I had to fight some miles alone for sure. There was some legs where it was 5, 7, maybe 9 miles of darkness, rain, lightning, and I was just in my own thoughts. Um, but that gave me time to really self-reflect and see where I was lacking. Right? I think I'm this big macho man, but in reality, you put some shoes on, throw a headlamp on, and you go out in the middle of nowhere. I'm unfamiliar with the area, and it's just me and the road. Like, it gives you a lot of time to think. But I needed that. I think that's something that I needed, and I think since finishing that, it's really opened up my head to a lot of things, and like what I can do better, not just with running and whatnot, but like self reflection, like what I can do to be better for myself. Which is something, it's a lifelong thing that I feel like everyone has to work on. Like, you'll never be perfect, but it's definitely something that I can see myself like building on. And now that I've done it, like, I know that I can do it. So why not just keep pushing and set new boundaries, set new goals, and try to figure it out from here.
Yeah, yeah, and you spoke I wanted to give a shout out to everybody that was out there, and, like you said, there was a lot of interest. It looked like, the numbers could skyrocket. It looked like they could be 0. I mean, it was
Yeah.
but, Grant and I knew that at the worst case scenario, it was gonna be him and I at a minimum, and that's what it was, and Alex's mom was flying in, and his mom's sisters, his aunts were flying in, and that's what it was. But the people that were out there, to the support teams would have been Melanie White, Shelby White, Deanie White, Chrissy, last name Riches, I believe. That's Tanner's wife, Donovan, and then Dustin ended up helping out as well. And then on the running side, we also had Dustin, Shane, Taylor, Brandy, Tanner, Lori, Scarlett, David, Clay. Am I missing any?
Buddy, that would have took me a year to remember. I'm terrible with names.
I think I think that's everybody. But if I miss somebody, I know we had 11 starters and 8 finishers, and I just wanted to just give a shout out to those folks because, I spoke about it before we ran. There was no good reason to do that run unless you were out there for yourself or something bigger.
Yeah.
I didn't give out any medals. I'm probably gonna do some t-shirts that I'll probably just give to everybody next year, figure it out for everybody that finished this year. But there was nothing guaranteed. It's bring your own stuff. If I mean, people knew Shane. He dropped out. He had to call an Uber. I mean, that's what was briefed, and that's what happened. And
Yeah.
like Grant was talking about, he might have been behind some miles. And that's the other thing is he had the option too. I mean, we saw Aid, 7 miles, 15 miles, 25 miles. There were chances it was easy to bow out, real easy to bow out. And I wanted to ask you, what did you think of this is the first time you've ever done anything that has like per se aid stations. What did you think about like stopping and like, refueling and things like that?
So I will say at first, again, to kind of recap and go back, like I had never done I've had a running vest, I've got the water and but I've never really dabbled outside of water with hydration, and doing a 10-mile run and having like one little soft flask or two soft flasks of water. So that was a whole new world and like getting a hydration vest, getting something where I can carry more than, a couple soft flasks of water, being able to self support and carry, phones, chargers, headphones, fuel, water, let's see, headlamp. Like I just had all these things and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with them? I don't know. Right. And you can go back and look at pictures and everything, and it probably looks like they're like, who did, this dude's off the side of the street, got headphones on that, I've never even touched during the run, which I still don't know why I even wore them. But yeah, man, the aid stations played a huge factor. I didn't spend much time at them. Shout out Dylan on that one. Uh, but no, I didn't spend too much time at the aid station, but it was one of those things where there were a couple times where I was able to, run in the gas station real quick or, go by the van or go by the truck and grab even just the slightest little thing as like a pick me up. Um, I'm not really a huge like soda drinker or anything. I'll occasionally have one here or there. But man, let me tell you, the honey buns, the Cokes, like all that sugary stuff that I try to stay away from, but it is my number one enemy when it comes to being a healthier person, right? Um, in that moment, that's all I could think about. And if I wouldn't have had those aid stations, that would have been another factor in like me not necessarily quitting, but like questioning, like just don't push yourself as hard, just walk, kind of an excuse would have came about. And I guess is the easiest way to say it. But definitely having those planned stops, man, and like the support that we did have, like even if it was just one person or it was 100 people, the support team was amazing and driving around majority of the night pretty much. There might have been a couple hours here and there where, hey, we'll see you in a couple hours at the next stop, and whatever you got is what you've got. But those aid stations were definitely something clutch. And I couldn't imagine like trying to self support longer than I did. Like 9 miles at one point was I was struggling. I had ran out of water. Electrolytes were gone. Like I had already ate one or two gels. I was like, dude, I'm sick of the gels already. Like I need something else in my system. Um, but when I could look down at my watch and see that I had 2, 3 miles or something, it was like, okay, hey, just suck it up. You'll be fine. Like your body's not shutting down on you. You have a little bit of hip pain, shoulder pain, but you'll be fine. Just keep pushing. And eventually, you see a light off in the distance and it's like, there's the gas station I was looking for. There's the headlights that I was looking for. And so in those moments, right, those every little thing mattered on this run, that I never would have took much to, seeing a gas station. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a million of those. But when you don't see one for hours and miles and you're on your feet and pitch black, talking to yourself, questioning why you're doing what you're doing, your mental state becomes a little altered and you really start appreciating the smaller things in life. So definitely those things is what are part of what kept me going. 100% on that.
Yeah, and I would say the first 25 or 30 miles were probably the toughest, folks. It was almost all in the dark. We started at 8, so kind of dusk, but it got dark real quick. Minimal shoulder most of the way. After about mile 11 or so,
Yeah.
pure back roads. We missed a turn, which then put us to missing an aid station stop, which luckily we kind of just redirected to about a mile or so farther than what it was before. Um, but what these were desolate back roads. I mean, we went by one like people having a bonfire party. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of scary, but kind of and but what Grant's talking about is like it got rainy and dark and about mile 20. So between the 15-mile aid station or 16 or whatever to the 20, I think the next one was 25, was when we lost Grant the first time, you know? And what he's saying has motivated him too, is like because he knew to keep up and get aid at these stops a little bit. You had to like we were in about a 10-minute window when we would stop, roughly 5 to 10 minutes of hey, change shoes and socks if you want to, get your meds, go to the gas station, go to the bathroom, change out your electrolytes, whatever you got to do. And everybody kind of knew, you know, it wasn't a set time, but everybody knew like you got to stay kind of close if you want to get in. And Grant kept coming in just right as, you know, we were probably a couple minutes from leaving. And so he'd pop in and be like, hey, Grant, make it quick. We're about to bust out of here. And he would curse at me a little bit. And then he'd get his stuff done and we'd start another section. And I will admit that I think that most people, after the first time that happened, and then you fell back again, counted you out, including myself. Not counted you out that you were not going to finish, but that we might not see you until the very end. You know,
Yeah.
but Grant kept coming back, and he would be that next section, that 20, 25 to 32, 33 or something like that. Grant spent probably 80% of that alone, and I slowly would turn around and watch his headlamp fade. And then we were about to leave. Well, we weren't even about to leave. We had just got there kind of. And Grant comes storming into this gas station. And I mean, he was ripping probably a 9-minute mile pace, which, you know, 30 miles in for a guy that's never run more than 10 miles. He was moving good. And everybody like audibly cheered at this point because everybody was so surprised that like he caught up to us and that he was going to move through us to the next station. So, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the pacing? So the pacing, folks, what we did is we would run a mile and then walk. I think I said in the beginning 2 or 3 minutes. It ended up being walking about a quarter mile, and this allowed for the group to kind of stick together. What did you think about it, Grant?
First off, to kind of hit on what you said, shout out to Brandy. I think it was pretty sure it was Brandy. One more time, because without those meds she gave me, oh, that saved me. Unlocked some of that hip pain for a little bit, and I was able to. I had to tone it down a little bit though, because like I said, I came barreling into that gas station, but a few miles before that, I had looked down at my watch and yeah, I was running like a 9 or 9:30 pace, and that's not what we were trying to hold. My legs did not want me to do a 9 or 9:30 pace, but at that moment I felt good, and I was like, I'm going to use my energy while I have it, and use my body to where I feel comfortable. But yeah, huge shout out there because without that, oh, it would have been. I probably wouldn't have came into that gas station. I probably wouldn't have seen you guys for 20 miles or so. Um, but yeah, the pacing, man, like again, it's so easy for me to compare this to any other run because I don't have that experience. I don't have those stories to lean back on and be like, oh well, I remember this one time I tried this pacing, or I did it this way and it worked, or I did it this way and it didn't work, or whatever. Um, so it's a little bit easier, but the pacing I thought was really good. I know we joke about it, and you had made a post not too long ago about like heart rates and stuff. Like again, I'm trying to figure out everything, right? But I do know even in my daily activities, like when we do PT and whatnot, like I can feel when my body, when my heart rate is picking up and the body's working much harder, getting the blood flow and the oxygen flow going. And so I pay attention to it a little bit, and just trying to figure out what all the diagnostics and the statistics and stuff mean, like what does a higher heart rate mean? What is your body doing? What is lower heart rate? All these things. And I think I averaged when I went back and look, I was keeping my heart rate around like 150 or 160, maybe even like 140, somewhere between 140 and 160 average throughout the entire thing. And for me, 140 to 160, I feel good. So I think the pace was super solid. Like, we try to keep around 11 to 12 minute mile pace. Unless we were with Brandy going up hills, then it was a little bit quicker. Um, but the 11 to 12 minute mile pace again is something that I've never trained. Like my zone two is probably around an 11, but I've always told myself, and I didn't really realize it until we did this run. I've always went out there and done my zone two runs and stuff, and told myself like, hey, your zone two is 10, 10:30, 10:45. When in reality, it's not. That's more like zone three, right? We're pushing a little higher. And so I think the 11 to 12 minute mile pace kind of unlocked a little bit of knowledge for me. And I was like, wait a minute, this feels much more comfortable. I'm actually able to have, excuse me, a conversation with everybody. I'm actually able to slow my heart rate down much quicker. I was able to think more clearly. Like everything just kind of hit all at once. So that 11 to 12 minute mile pace was like the perfect pace. And then going up and down hills, right? Which I feel like, you know, is common sense, but like going up a hill, we would try to walk it unless it was like a crazy long hill or something like that. Going down hills, even if it was rest time, like if we were in that rest period where we were doing the quarter mile ish of rest, it was like, hey guys, like we have a downhill here. Let's go ahead and rip through this downhill, get to the bottom, and then we can catch up on the rest on the back end, because it really doesn't serve any purpose to walk down the hill. And so I think, and we stuck to pace, which I thought was a phenomenal job on really everybody, like yourself and everybody out there, for maintaining that, because the goal was 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. or sorry, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. 12 hours was kind of what we were pushing for. Did quick math, 15-minute mile pace gets you 12 hours. Um, and I think when we finished, we were at a 7 hours and 59 minutes and 30 seconds or something crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that we actually held that with stops, with the traffic, with the weather. Like we kept on pace, um, and running slower allowed me that ability to kind of work through some pain that I was having. It allowed me times where I did feel like I could run faster. I was like, hey, I know I fell back a little bit earlier and was running like 16, 17-minute pace. Now the pain has kind of subsided a little bit. I'm going to pick it up a little bit. So I was able to jump up to a 9:30, 10, 11-minute pace to try to close some of that distance. So I think that was the sweet spot, honestly. But again, this is all new. Like I never in a million years would I think exactly, or especially where I'm at now, kind of in the train up, right? My 47-mile train up, as I like to call it. Um, Never in a million years would I have thought I would have had to think about all these things and like kind of trial and error on a 47 miler. Like trial and error should not be done on the day of the run, right? But it's something that we had to figure out, and I did it the hard way because I've always been told since I was a kid, like I'm hard headed. Um, so we got out there, got after it, but that pace was spot on and was able to, definitely keep me going. If it was any quicker than that, again, add it to the list of something that would have been potentially an ender for me. So I definitely liked that pace for sure.
Yeah, and I think that, we talked about making this a race and we talked about it out there. I just got everybody's opinion. It's real early on. And even early on, everybody was like, we should keep this as a group run in some way. And as
Yeah,
you're kind of talking about, it was kind of split, 50-50, where what we had, 50% of people were pretty comfortable with the pace, and 50% of people were struggling to keep up, but able to. So they got like
yeah,
everybody got something out of it, whether that was like building your engine, which is where I kind of saw myself in the run, or like somebody like Lori who seemed like she didn't even run at all because she was like looked so fresh the whole time.
yeah,
Um, to even people like Clay who worked through, serious stomach issues towards the end and almost wasn't able to finish, probably because he was getting close to a rhabdo situation, considering
yeah,
having no nutrients in his body for like 4 hours or something like that.
yeah.
What I wanted to ask you, with you being new, when you hit mile markers like half marathon, full marathon, 50K, 40 miles, were you feeling any type of way? Did you feel any type of way when you hit these? These are milestones that people work for their entire lives, and that many won't ever accomplish, right? I mean, in reality, I think it's 0.01% of humans complete a full marathon in their life. And you went from no train up, 10-mile longest run, to 47 miles. So you hit all these like things that people say you have to train, X amount of time for to do, and you were just ripping through them in one night, one half day. And I'm just wondering if you felt anything specifically when you hit those certain mile markers, and if you did, like, what were you feeling?
So I'm not gonna lie, I have a terrible time with constantly checking my watch. On any distance run, I feel like I'll look every 30 seconds, like, oh, let me check my pace, let me do this, let me do that. And the watch becomes kind of a hindrance to me because now I'm not listening to my body and how I feel. Um, I'm going solely based off of what, a watch is telling me, which, in my mind is a terrible way to kind of take control of things. I know at one point that night I was at mile, it was right around 10, and you were trying to, I can't remember what it was, but you were trying to get me to like go up to the front and take the flag and, set this new distance PR carrying the flag and whatnot. And again, I don't know what I was doing. But anyways, we got to around the half marathon mark. And I remember looking down, and in my mind, I was like, oh, this is cool, first half marathon. But I didn't really put too much thought to it because, for one, I knew that I still had 30-ish miles to go. I didn't want to celebrate too much. I didn't want to, empty out the tank right there and be like, I'm done. I hit this point. The way I looked at it was more of like, okay, hey, you're halfway to a marathon. Good job. You ran 3 miles fast. You ran 3 miles farther than your all-time distance PR. Like, good for you, buddy. Right. So I kind of used it as fuel to like tell myself like, you've only ever ran 10 miles, but here you are, you just did 13 just fine. So like, why haven't you done this before? Why haven't you, unlocked that physical and mental part and just went past 10? Give it a shot. So I didn't really pay too much attention to it. And again, I didn't want to dive too deep into like, oh, what was my time? What were my stats? What was my splits? Like I wanted to try to put that behind me and keep that behind me, because I knew that that was just the beginning. The 13 miles was a warm up, right? That half marathon was a warm up to what my end goal was, which was completing the entire thing. And then moving into the marathon realm of things, like that's when I started to not really celebrate, right? Because again, still had 20 miles. But I definitely felt more of a sense of accomplishment at that point. And I think I remember looking down and it was at like, I don't know, maybe like 6 hours, 6.5 hours, somewhere around that mark, with like stops included. But that was also at the same time where I was starting to have these pains that were really lurking and staying around for much longer than I would have liked. So I was working through a lot of stuff already at that point. But I did kind of pat myself on the back. I was like, hey, like this is awesome. I've always had this thought of running half marathons, and I've told people before, like, hey, I'm going to sign up for this half marathon. Well, guess what I didn't do? I didn't sign up for it. Hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do a full train up, and I'm going to try to run a marathon in 6 months or 8 months or whatever, right? However long the train up. And then guess what? I never made it to that point. Never made it to the train up. Never finished the train up. Never really even started a solid workout plan to get me to that point. So I definitely patted myself on the back there. But again, I knew the end goal was not 13 miles. The end goal was not 26 miles. The end goal was 47, 48 miles. Like, I had even made a joke before, like, hey man, if we finish short of 50, we're gonna keep going, right? Like, um, now that did not happen because that's something we had to tone back a little bit once I got into the higher mileage. I was like, yeah, that was a stupid comment. I won't ever do that again. Um, but yeah, I just it was a whole new world, man. I had never even been in that situation where 26 miles. I hate driving 26 miles. Like, the thought process of driving and running and just anything for I'm not really a huge fan of it. Um, so I didn't try to dive too deep into like any self celebration or anything there. I really just tried to mentally lock in, work through the pain that I was working through, and tell myself like, hey, you made it about halfway. Like you're at the 50% mark. Everything you just worked for, and everything you just pushed yourself through, you got to do it again. So we're starting over at this is your first step right now, and you're gonna finish it in another 20 miles, right? Like, so I just had to kind of keep reminding myself because there are times where I'll look down and be like, oh, well, I was going for a 5 mile run today, but I feel like I ran a little bit faster than I needed to, and we're only at 3.5, so I'm just gonna stop here. I held a faster pace. And I talked myself out of a lot of that, progression that I could have been making. Um, and so, yeah, man, I just mentally, I tried to keep that behind me. Um, and at that point, pain was setting in, and, it was dark, and I was in a very uncomfortable state. Um, I was not where I ever imagined I would be. And at that point, I was like, look, it's now or never. You've got the whole night ahead of you. You've been up for 24 hours at this point, maybe a little bit less, but like by the end of the run, it had been like 28 hours or something that I had been up, something like that. Um, so I was tired, I was hurting, I was dehydrated, fueling, like I had never done anything like that. So just trying to figure all that out and put it all together, I was like, I've got way bigger things to worry about right now than to worry about what distance I'm at and what I've accomplished. And that's something that I've reflected on now, though, since being, complete, going back and looking at certain things like let's see what the splits were, let's see where my shortfalls were, let's see where I excelled at. Let's go find those happy points in that run where, hey, he came barreling into this gas station. That was at this mile. Look at my pace here. And now I've kind of accepted that and kind of celebrated a little bit more internally with myself, and like really told myself like, hey, you just did something that a lot of people will never get the opportunity to or will never push themselves to do. Um, and again, I feel like it's a very cliche thing, but this is something that stuck with me. You said it a while back, but it's a simple term, right? For those who can't, um, and I mean that's what it is. I'm able
It
to
gives me
get up in the
goosebumps.
morning. I'm a, I'm able to get up and walk. I'm able to get up and run. I'm able to get up and live, right? And there's people that can't. There's people that won't. So it's like I'm in the situation where I can. So why not just do it? Just keep going. Keep pushing yourself. Like you're fine. Don't shut down now. Don't get too overzealous and think that you're the top dog out here. Like I was the low man on the totem pole from the get go, and all I wanted to do was go out and finish and complete what I started to do. Like that was my end goal, was getting to the end.
Yeah, and you did, dude. And so for people that don't like, so yeah, let me explain who Grant is here because I think it's most people. Grant doesn't like running. Grant didn't have a train up. His biggest week on Strava was a little less than 7 miles, folks. His
All
biggest
right.
week since
All
May. I
right.
didn't look back too far. And then his longest run was 10 miles. So Grant, the question I have is for somebody who is like that, right? Would you recommend doing this? And if if so, how would you how would you recommend going about it? Like if you so knowing what you know right now, if you were to talk to yourself 2 weeks ago, what would you tell you?
I definitely would have told myself, like, I feel like the recommendation that I should tell everyone is like an actual train up, right? Do those long runs, do your stride runs, work on speed, work on time on your feet, work on fueling, work on self supporting, work on hydration, watch what you eat, right? Like, I'm terrible. I love all kinds of food, and I would just eat and eat and eat. Um, but I really, coming into knowing that I was getting ready to do this run, I was like, hey, I need to fuel my body. Like I need to, do it the right way. Um, so I cut out all types of sweets, and I wasn't really eating anything sugary. Working on staying hydrated, doing electrolytes, throughout my days. On harder days, getting more water in the system. Like the suggestion should be, right. The smart thing to say is actually train up for something like that, right? I could have risked a lot. I did risk a lot. Like I risked a lot of injury. I risked a potential, rhabdo situation where your body starts shutting down on itself. Um, but in my mind, my suggestion would be, you know, do hard things. Like it's not just do it. Just like, and
Yeah.
again, I feel like I'm using a lot of your quotes, right? But you've been a huge part of not just this, but we've known each other forever. And there's things that, little inside jokes and things that we say. And it's like we can go years at a time and you say one word that has a common thing between us and it just like sparks an entire conversation. And there's certain things that since I have gotten into this kind of running journey and try to figure things out on my own, I take everything that you say at face value. I don't question it. I don't go back and research it. I'm like, if Dylan says it, it's right. If Dylan says this, like he's telling me, the truth.
I don't
Um,
recommend.
but yeah, man, it's just like I would recommend the smart way would be to obviously prepare in every way possible for something like that. And I wish that I would have, but I also on the flip side, playing the devil's advocate here, like I'm glad that I did it the way I did, because it really showed me where I lacked in my shortfalls and what I was strong in. It showed that I had the mental capacity to do something like that. Not necessarily the physical capacity, right? But the mental ability to fight through situations that I've never really been in before, especially alone. Typically, if I do anything like that, or I've ever been in a rough situation with rucking or running or whatever, there's always a group of people around you. And it's so easy to bow out. And I hate saying it, but it's easy in the army to bow out of something and just fall out and be like, oh, ankle pain, knee pain. But that's not something that I wanted for this. I had an entirely different mindset coming into this. And I think the mental work that I had really pressured myself into that night is what pushed me. I was like, dude, I'll go until I'm crawling. Like, I made a bunch of jokes, and I think I might have told you, but everyone asking me about it, like at work and stuff like that, they're like, you're going to run 47 miles, 48 miles. And I'm like, no, I like to refer to it as the run, walk, crawl, die. Right. Like that was kind of the
Yeah.
four phases that I had preset in my mind. Like, I'm going to begin running. If I can't run anymore, I'm going to walk. Once I can't walk, I'm crawling, right? And I'm going to crawl until I can't, and I'm just dead, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't call me crazy. I don't know, but that's just I had set those four phases in my mind, and I was like, that is it. You crawl, you run, you walk, you crawl, you die until you get to the end. Um, and so yeah, it really showed me a lot about myself that night, and reflecting back on it, it's it was an uphill battle from the get go, no pun intended. Um, but I would 100% do it again over and over and over. Just with a little bit more train up next time for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, like doing it the smart way. And I was astonished when I finally found out what your distance PR was and how little you trained. Um,
Yeah.
but it like opened my mind to the fact that like what is capable. If somebody can
Yep.
go from zero training, and a 10-mile PR to 47 miles because they have the mental fortitude to continue to move forward, whether it's for a late friend in our situation or if it's just to find something out about yourself. I think what you did showed a lot of people that they are not reaching their capabilities and things that they're going to do. And like it makes me question like what am I actually capable of? Like if I was able to harness whatever you harness to get through what you got through, could I do 1,000 miles? I mean, I don't know, right? But what I'm saying is like on paper, and I told you this afterward, I told you this maybe before. On paper,
Yeah.
you have no business finishing that. Like you have no business finishing that at all because you have not trained for it. Your body has no idea how to react to any of this. Your gut is not trained. You've done nothing to prepare for this. Yet
Yeah.
you physically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually, however you got there, you made it. And what everybody should look at here is like, what are you doing that's actually challenging yourself, that's outside of your capabilities? Because what you did is 100% outside of your capabilities, yet you made it happen. And so like you say like I would have rather trained up. Like I wouldn't want it any other way, dude. Because like I learned from you that like there there are limits to this, and there are limits that you can surpass regardless of what anybody says or thinks. And you proved like everything wrong that anybody would tell you in the ultra community, in the running community, in your little groups. Everybody bet against you, you know. And I told you
Mhm.
before the run, like I'm like, dude, I I don't know if you can make it. You know, like I on paper, dude, it's not good, but you did it
Yeah.
anyways, and it's just so sick to know that there's more, and I don't know, like it made me question if I've ever even reached that point to where I'm pushing as hard as you did or as hard as David did because he went from 14 miles to 47, or Clay when he was throwing up and hadn't eaten anything for 25 miles. Like these are all things I witnessed in a group of 8 people that stuck together, working through one of the hardest things they'd gone through in their life. And it was just,
Yeah.
like I said, it's just I wouldn't change anything about it. It's just that's my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely, like I said, it definitely made me think much more thoroughly about, you know, what I could have done better. But again, I wouldn't change anything. You know, 2 weeks ago, like this is something that most people train up months and months for. You know, even something as I say as small as 47 miles. Like I'm not trying to be this
It's
like
huge, dude.
crazy
It's
guy
huge.
now, but I'm trying to be humble, right? But like 47 miles is something that a lot of people would take a lot of time to train up for. So trying to go back and think like, what could I have done differently 2 weeks ago? What could I have done differently a month ago? Well, guess what? I didn't do it. And moving forward, all I can do is use that as a learning experience, and push myself, you know. And I had talked to, I had brought it up to you. I think I talked to Clay, and then I talked to my wife as well. And Clay was messaging me after, he had made a video about, you know, the grit and, you know, everything that I had pushed myself through, and how, you know, it made an influence on him, and like made him kind of do the same thing that you're doing, questioning like, wow, this dude like came out here and on paper should have never in a million years been where he is at, but he figured it out. He figured out a way to get to the end. Um, and I never had intentions of ever being an influence, right? Like I knew that I was stepping into something that was not necessarily not for me, but not my comfort zone. I was outside of my comfort zone from the moment I put my shoes on until I took them off. And I told my wife and I told Clay, I was like, I never had the intentions of influencing anyone. Um, I was trying to influence myself. I was trying to keep myself on track and keep pushing. Like, so to hear kind of these stories of like someone that's, you know, the accolades that you've accomplished in your time of running, and the things that Clay has done, and the things that Lori and Brandy and just everybody that they've all accomplished, and me just going out there and doing a quarter or a half of what some of these people have done. It's just crazy to think that me struggling, you know, and fighting for my life for a lot of the time was an influential like piece of their life. So I thought that was super super dope. Um, and definitely makes it that much more special to be able to be a part of something like that for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I think Tanner was super impressed too, and he's a 100-mile finisher, and it was just a lot of people there. That stretch down Fort Campbell Boulevard, dude, it felt like the Grim Reaper was chasing us with, you know, with your issues, with Clay's issues, with David's shins, and then Scarlett was, you know, she was fighting, and it just felt like, you know, we were like, we're there, but there's still a lot to go, you
Yeah.
know, and so as the sun rose and you're starting to finish, like at what point did you, well, like I said, the whole time you said you would never quit, but at what point did it really hit you like, I'm gonna finish this? Because I know that whenever I get to a race and I find that like I usually get a real overwhelming feeling of gratefulness. Sometimes I'll cry, sometimes I'll just, you know, yell, sometimes I'm just I'm usually just real excited, but there's a turning point in a race that like at Cocodona, I think I was 180 in, and I was like, I knew, that I was gonna finish, and like I got real grateful. Did you have that moment at any point on the course or on the run, whatever we're gonna call it?
That was mile 38. Um, is when it kind of set in for me. That sun coming up, I, again, call me crazy, but I wish the sun would have never came up that morning because that, to me, like I almost enjoyed not being able to see anything and not know where I was at. And when I started seeing things that looked familiar to me and buildings and all the fast food places are firing up the grills and people are out and about, and then you got Alex's mom driving up and down the road yelling at me, right? And I told her at the time, like, that's motivation, right? But at the time I was ready to just like run out in traffic, like and just like I was just done, right? Like mentally I had checked out. The
Yeah.
sun was coming up. I just was not a fan of anything. um at that point I couldn't run more than a tenth of a mile at a time. Like and that's not a stretch. Like I would look down at my watch and it would be 0.05, or it would be a tenth of a mile before I had to stop. And you posted a video of me, for the world to see, and my stretching abilities, in the gas station parking lot. But that was something that I did probably every tenth of a mile or a quarter of a mile on the side of the road, people driving up and down, and they're like, wait a minute, why is this guy back here? And I just saw a bunch of people running a mile down the road, 2 miles down the road. Why is this guy back here? um but I was struggling. But I knew that at mile 38, when the sun was starting to slowly come up, and I was able to see these things, I was like, hey, I'm there, like I'm there. But it was also almost like a double-edged sword, because when I started to see those things, recognize where I was at, I think I mentally checked out. Um, and that was something that I had to fight harder than I did the entire run, was telling myself, hey, you're going to finish, you're going to make it, you're going to make it. When in reality, I still had approximately eight-ish miles to go. Like almost another entire half marathon. And I'm already like, oh yeah, I'm going to finish. This is too easy. Um, and so I think that took a lot out of me mentally. And that's when I started to feel that mental, the mental fortitude and everything kind of shut down. And earlier in the run, I was able to work through those mental gaps. And when I was feeling pain or whatever, I could kind of talk myself out of it and run, half mile walk for a little bit, run for a half mile walk for a little bit. But when I started to check out, um, I was telling myself like, oh, it doesn't matter. You already said if you can't run, you'll walk. So why don't you just walk? You know, you already said if you can't walk and it hurts, you'll crawl, right? So do that. Like stop pushing yourself. You've already made it, right? You're already there. You're already at the end. And so I kind of went back on everything that had carried me to that point, and I was doing the complete opposite. And I think between miles 38 and 46, 47, that's when I really like, that was the hardest part of the run for me mentally. Physically, obviously, I've been on my feet for a very long time, but like mentally, that was the hardest part, was capturing running through the night, not seeing anything, working through it. The mental state was good. To my mental state just kind of took over my entire body, and I just was starting to completely shut down. So that was the biggest obstacle for me, was kind of fighting through that throughout the night, or throughout that morning of the race or the run.
Yeah, and so at one point we were on that stretch of road, and either I texted you or you texted me something like, "I'm good back here, buddy," and I told you we're gonna wait to regroup everybody 2 miles out or so. Talk through how that made you feel, and then how it made you feel seeing the rest of us and finishing with us, because we kind of made a group decision that at this point there was no way we weren't going to finish all together. We had been together literally the entire day and night, and there was only a couple miles that you had really missed at that point. And then Clay was starting to struggle as well. Scarlett was struggling. I mean, half the group was in serious issues. And so
Yeah.
what did that feel like? You know, like did that help you? Did that hurt you? Like what did you feel there?
So like I said, I think at that point I was so mentally checked out that when I saw that message, and you were like, "Hey, we're gonna wait on you. We're gonna be about 2 miles out, and we're gonna finish together." Um, and I think I told you this after too. Like I was kind of, I was excited, right? I wanted to be back with people. I wanted to be back with the group and like show them and show myself that, hey, I'm here. I'm still here. I'm behind you, but I'm here. And I told you from the get go that I was going to get to the finish line in whatever capacity that may be. Um, and I know that here shortly, I'm going to catch up to them, whether they're already at the finish line or not. But when you told me that, I was almost mad. I was upset. Um, but I think that was my brain telling me, like, hey, now you're just slowing them down. Now you're just making them, all their muscles and everything's tightening up. They're just sitting there waiting on you. You're so slow. You should have never put yourself in this situation. Like all these things were just flowing in. And so when I saw that, I actually remember like verbally expressing myself right there on the side of the road. I was like, this is stupid. Like, this is the dumbest thing. This has ruined running for me. This would be the last time I put a pair of running shoes on outside of PT. Um, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it really all hit me at once. I had not felt like that the entire night um, until that point. But when you texted me and was like, hey, we're waiting, part of me wanted, was like, hey, this is awesome, but I was so overloaded with the negative energy that was coming in through my head that it almost just like outweighed the positive points. But then as I started making some of these turns, like I was even getting mad at my GPS because I was like, where did they turn? Like what kind of route is this? Why would Dylan make me cross the road? Like everything just got like it just started piling up, and I was like, you know, thinking like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? But as I got to that point, I went from being unable to run a tenth of a mile at a time to when I started seeing y'all waiting on me in the parking lot. I was probably a quarter mile out or something like that at this point before I saw y'all. Um, and it was just like all of a sudden, it was just like this feeling like I don't know what it was that just came over me, but I literally ended up I was like, well, I'm not gonna walk. They're not gonna see me walking in. I'm not gonna do that to them, right? Even though I had done a lot of walking, I felt like I owed at least that little part of like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still pushing, just a little bit slower. Um, and so when I showed up, that immediately like sparked the energy back, and all the positivity came flowing back in, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I needed. I fought enough by myself. It's time to get back to the group and like uplift them like they're doing for me. So I was able to run that quarter mile, and it's crazy because like I said, like I went from struggling for 8, 9, 10 miles to being able to all of a sudden I can run this quarter mile, and like the pain just subsided, everything subsided. Um, got to the parking lot, right? And then I seen everybody and they were like, hey, let's go. And you looked at me and you were like, hey, you're leading the pack, right? And I was like, oh shit. I was like, y'all don't want to see me leading the pack, buddy. Like that's gonna be a rough time, but hey, I appreciate it. I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna do it. Because I owed that to myself and I owed it to everyone that went out of their way to support me throughout the whole thing. Um, and so I got up front, and like I said, the positive energy just stayed there. Like I don't know. I started running. Obviously, at that point, people had tightened up from, waiting, and we had people fighting, hydration and fueling issues and things of that nature. And um, but we got up front and we pushed like that. I kept telling myself like, you're there, one foot in front of the other. Take it slow. Like your body is beat, your mental state is beat, but these people are relying on you, right? Like these people want you to finish, and I wanted them to finish. And so doing that together was an amazing feeling. And thank God for the last kind of push there because it went straight downhill, which made my life a million times easier. And then once we hit the bottom part, you finally made a smart decision during the run and was like, hey, maybe we should just walk it up, And I was like, thank, thank you, please, thank you for allowing me the
Yeah.
opportunity to finally actually walk and not feel like I'm falling behind. Um, but no, that was a very enjoyable experience getting back with everyone and seeing everybody that I had started with and finishing together. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what we were there for, was to do it together. Um, and it happened. You know, that was the end goal, and we made it happen. So
Yeah. How did finishing feel? Being done finally.
I I don't even know if I've still, and I actually was just thinking about this earlier. I still don't know if I fully understand what I did. Um, it felt amazing at the end. Like, we got there and I knew I was done. I knew I had unlocked all these things and mentally pushed myself to places I've never been before and physically pushed myself to places I've never been before. So I felt a lot of gratitude and like appreciation for what I had done. And looking around at everyone else, like we all started sharing stories of like, oh, dude, you remember at mile 20, this, like, at that point, I felt like that's when everybody came together and we really like meshed really quickly at the end. Um, we were like, hey, we got to add each other on Facebook. We got to add each other on Strava. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to keep supporting, even that, like, that's just when everything came filling in. And like I said, the excitedness of not only being done, but knowing that I finished what I set out to do. So I finally felt complete. I showed up to do exactly what I said I was going to do. And so at that point, I was like, dude, I'm like telling myself in my mind, I'm like, you're a badass. You said you were going to do it. You did it. Like, here we are now. What's the next move? And so I was already in my mind thinking like, okay, I can't wait to get back. Screw all that stuff I said, earlier. I'm ready to get back, get some good food, get some hydration, stretch, maybe take a couple days off, and then I'm ready to get back after it. Um, and so finishing was just, it was an amazing experience overall, but like that finishing point of sitting there and then they continued to run at the end for another mile or whatever it was. I think was it Lori? No, it wasn't Lori's birthday.
It was
I can't remember.
Lori and Scarlett and myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Y'all, and it was for Scarlett's birthday, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, Scarlett wanted to get to
Okay.
48 miles for her
So
birthday. That's
just
right.
Yeah, so even seeing that at the end, I was like, dude, I've already, like, I got done. I was like, shoes are coming off, socks are coming off. Like,
Yeah.
I'm done, right? Like I did what I said I was doing. I'm not, and again, I brought up earlier, like, oh, when I get done, I'm gonna push to 50. No shot. As soon
Yeah.
as I got there, the shoes came off, the vest came off, and I was just like, I'm done. Like I did what I set out to do, and that's it. But then sitting back and watching like you guys run that extra little bit for something again that you didn't have to do. It just kept going. Like it just like that run extended into something that mattered more to somebody for another reason, right? And it just kept going. And I was like,
Right.
this is absolutely wild. Like it was just amazing to see that. And again, it took 46, 47 miles to kind of get that feeling back. But like I felt the same way that I did at the beginning. I was lost. I was confused. I didn't know anybody, right? I felt alone, other than obviously knowing you, but like I just felt way out of my comfort zone from the beginning. And then by the time we finished, I felt like I had known these people my entire life.
Yeah.
They were like, hey man, this is my next upcoming race. This is, I can't wait to get back home and see my daughter, or I can't wait to, like, my wife's cooking dinner. Like it was just all these things. And I was like, wow, like I felt included at that point. And all it took was, some pain and suffering and some common denominators for us to, come together. So it was overall, it was a very, very humble, very exciting experience, like the entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you did finish, dude. And everybody was so stoked for everybody, but especially
Yeah.
yourself and David and I mean when you see people go through the hardship, like to see somebody finish is always incredible. And I think something you touched on there, like everybody was talking about, moving forward. And I think like everybody in the group was so stoked for next year, which like I didn't
Yeah.
expect that, and like we talked about what next year was going to be, and then we wanted to be a group run forever. Like it'll always be a group. That's what Alex would want. That's what like everybody that made like it really warmed me that like
Yeah.
everybody immediately was like all in for next year. Like I mean, in their pit of despair, in full soreness and terribleness, everybody was like, "All right, we're doing this again next year. See you next year." Is like kind of how we left
Yeah.
everybody there that day, and we have a group chat that like we kind of rile up a little bit sometimes. But yeah, it was special, and everybody found something different out there. You've explained like everything that you felt, and it's just like for me to hear everybody express why they were there and then what they got out of it. Um, it was a great experience, man, and it's exactly what Alex would want, and that's like he was he was the friend that you and I wish we could be. You know what I mean? He loved everybody, everybody loved him, and we just tried to give a little piece of that to him, put a
Yeah.
little hug around Clarksville, and
Yeah. Right.
I think it happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else you got, Grant? You got any, how you feel? How's recovery been? Let's talk about recovery. How's that been?
So we got done. Was that Saturday morning? Not good at all. Saturday was a terrible day for movement purposes. Sunday Sunday still struggled. Felt like a 1,000 pound brick, like trying to get out of bed and walk around and do things. But then Monday or that Sunday, I drove back to Knox, and Monday we came out, and I think I ended up running that day. I still had some hip pain, still had some issues going on there, but I knew I needed to get moving a little bit to help, you know, figure out what it was. Was it an injury? Was it just soreness? I couldn't really tell just laying around, and I knew laying around was not gonna help anything. Um, so Monday I got out there, did a 2 mile run, super slow pace. And that's when I kind of started to feel, I was like, okay, it's just soreness, overusage of the hip and the groin area that was causing so much issues. So I didn't push myself, nothing crazy. Tuesday still had the pain had probably subsided 1%. I still was in rough shape. Feet felt fine. Never had any issues with my feet. So huge shout out to, I don't know what helped me there, but huge shout out to whatever helped me with my feet and everything, because I was most worried about getting just some gnarly blisters and stuff. But Tuesday went out for another run, another 2 mile. I just 2 miles felt comfortable at the time. Like I didn't want to push any farther than that. It's blazing hot. It was like 95 degrees both times I did those runs, and my body was still recovering from everything, and my hydration was still in the works of getting fixed and whatnot. Um, and then on Wednesday, I ran. I was able to do. I think we did like 2 miles for PT. We did some hill sprints. And that felt good. And then in the afternoon, I went for like a 3.5 mile run at a much quicker pace, I say, and like a 10-minute pace or something versus an 11:30, 12 minute that I was doing. And I had texted you and I was like, hey, like, finally the pain's kind of going away. I'm feeling a little bit better. Um, Thursday we didn't do any. We actually played sports on Thursday for PT, so we played like ultimate frisbee. I was out there jumping, running around, and everything started to really feel okay. And then today we went on I think it was like 3.5 or 3.7 mile run or something at like a 9:20 pace. And I felt great. So I think it definitely took a little bit of time, which, obviously I knew that from the get go was going to happen, but the recovery process was slow, and I expected that. But I think like we're finally getting back to the point where I've already ran 12 and a half miles this week, so you can't use the 10 miles against me anymore, or the
Second
six,
biggest week of the year.
the 6 miles for my training week. But yeah, and tomorrow, tomorrow we got a couple buddies. We're gonna go out and do like a 8.5 mile hike out in this like park that's out here. So we'll get out there. It's got a little bit of elevation and stuff, but we're gonna get out there. I feel good, um, ready to get after it. And I really am working the, like I said, the accountability piece and telling myself to get off your feet, or get on your feet and like do something hard, whether it's 2 miles that day, 5 miles, 10 miles. And I had mentioned to you too, like I'm already looking at doing another run, which again, I would have thought in a million years I would do anything like this, but I'm already looking at another run for September 19th. I graduate on the 10th. I'll get home, spend the weekend with, the kids and the wife and our friends and stuff, and make sure that, or not make sure, but, enjoy the time that, I've been gone for. It'll be almost 2 months at that point. And then that following weekend, like I've already told my wife, like, hey, I think I want to go do a 50K that weekend. Like, I don't know why. Don't ask me why. Call me crazy, call it what you want. Trying to get some of my buddies enticed into doing it, but I I think I'm more hooked now doing that than I was before when I first started, using running as not just to stay healthy and stay, active, but it was a big mental clarity tool for me when I was running in the afternoons or at night, doing night runs and stuff like that. Um, it was a big clarity, a big peace of mind for me to go out and just me and the road, no minimal cars around, throw some music on and just go. But since doing something hard like this, like now I'm like, okay, maybe let's pump the brakes a little bit. We'll tone down the mileage just a tad. Maybe not run out and try to do another 47 miles, but I definitely want to do a legit train up and focus on my mental state, focus on my body, and push towards that next goal, which is, you know, hopefully doing a 50K in September. So,
Dude, awesome. Yeah. I love to hear it, man. Yeah, motion is lotion is kind of what you're talking about. You got to get up and
yeah,
move, to recover. Um, Grant, you got anything else, brother?
I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot of it. I will say, I've told you before, and I told the others that ran with us, but thank you for putting that together. Thank you for the opportunity to even be a part of that, and holding me accountable, pushing me, making everything memorable and worthwhile. And to everybody that supported, everybody that ran alongside me, in front of me, behind me, just I couldn't have done it without you guys, and I definitely would have never in a million years done anything like that if it wasn't for you and for them alongside me. So I really appreciate that. It was a really great experience, very humbling, and I'm going to try everything I can every year to be a part of that because it is something bigger than myself. And at the end of the day, that's what I enjoy is doing hard things, right? Pushing myself, but doing it for something other than myself, doing it for something bigger. So yeah, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was an awesome experience. I'm gonna keep grinding, right? I'll stay true to my word this time. I've said it in the past, but mentally, I'm in a really good spot right now. Physically, I feel good. I think I've learned a lot, and just from that short amount of time of doing that, and that's something that I want to grow on. I'm not just going to let it go off in the wind and then next year, just full send it again with no train up. Like I want to be out there and I want to be in the front with you guys alongside you, from start to finish. So that's the end goal here is to keep pushing, keep grinding and, see where it takes me.
Yeah, dude, I'm proud of you. Folks, thanks for tuning in today. And just one more time, shout out to, the Staff Sergeant Alexander Patrick White Memorial Ultra. It is here to stay. Unanimous decision by the first group, the inaugural crew. They said that we're doing it every year. So whatever weekend falls closest to July 31st, expect that we will be doing the loop around Clarksville. I'm going to try to make it 50 miles, though. We're going to try to get it to that real life 50-mile threshold just because that's what people really look for. But yeah, none of this would be possible without the people that helped us. None of this would be possible without God Almighty. None of this would have been possible without our friend Alex. And I hate to have to run in his name, but I love what he's doing for us in heaven. You know, it's he did a lot for us here on earth. He continues to work with us and for us and help us as he's gone. So once again, folks, thank you. This was Grant Hammock on the Made New project. You can find it on YouTube and Spotify, and we are out.